He laughed in my face when I walked out of that office. 3 years of loyalty tossed aside like trash. But his laughter stopped the second he opened my letter. The words I left on that page stripped him bare in front of his empire. And when he realized what I'd done, it was already too late. My name's Megan Carter, and for 3 years, I gave everything to Carter Logistics. Yeah, my married name, Carter. My boss was also my father-in-law. That should have meant stability, trust, maybe even opportunity. Instead, it became the biggest curse of my career. I joined straight out of grad school. No shortcuts, no favors. I started in operations when the department was 12 people scrambling to hold everything together. I built it into a 40-person machine that ran like clockwork. The company's biggest accounts, trucking contracts worth millions, trusted me personally. I was promised, over and over again, that I'd be the next regional director. The title, the pay, the authority I had already been doing without recognition. For 3 years, I bled for it. 70-hour weeks, missed birthdays, dinners eaten alone in the glow of my laptop. And then came the day that destroyed everything. The conference room was buzzing, champagne glasses lined up. My father-in-law, Richard Carter, stood at the head of the table, silver hair slicked back, voice booming like a sermon. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to announce our new regional director, my brilliant niece, Chloe Blake. Applause. Laughter. Congratulations. Everyone stood. Everyone clapped. Except me. I sat frozen, hands limp in my lap. Chloe, fresh from business school. 8 weeks in the company. 8 weeks. And she was getting the job I had been promised for years. Richard's eyes flicked toward me, and I swear he smirked before raising his glass. And let's all thank Megan, who's been such a wonderful mentor to Chloe already. I know she'll continue supporting our new director in every way possible. Support. That word hit me like poison. Support someone who didn't even know the difference between a carrier contract and a warehouse lease. Support someone who had never worked a late-night emergency shipment or soothed an angry client threatening to walk away with millions. I forced myself to clap. Slow. Hollow. My smile felt like shards of glass cutting into my mouth. After the meeting, I stumbled back to my office. My nameplate still read Senior Operations Manager. My wall was lined with Employee of the Year plaques, 3 of them, each one mocking me now. I locked the door, sat down, and just stared. At 5 o'clock, as I gathered my things, Richard appeared in the doorway. Megan, can I have a word? He sat across from me, hands folded, looking like a benevolent king handing out scraps. I know today was difficult, but you're incredibly valuable here. Chloe will need your guidance. I want you to take on a senior advisory role. Train her, show her the ropes. Train my replacement. He actually said it like it was a gift. 3 months ago, I said, keeping my voice level, you told me the promotion was mine. You said I'd earned it. What changed? He shifted. His fingers spun his gold wedding ring. Business needs evolved. Chloe brings fresh perspective. 8 weeks of fresh perspective versus 3 years of results. I asked, you're taking this too personally. I laughed. Cold, sharp, joyless. This is my career. My life. How else should I take it? Richard leaned forward, voice dropping. Family looks out for family. Chloe needed this opportunity. You don't. You're secure here. You'll always have a place with us. And there it was. The truth. I wasn't being passed over for lack of ability. I was being sacrificed because in his eyes, my role was to serve. I wasn't family enough to be trusted with power, only family enough to be expected to bleed quietly for their gain. I left that office with my heart burning ice cold. That night, I told my husband, Daniel, what had happened. His face twisted in rage. He said you didn't need it? He actually said that? He grabbed his phone. I'm calling him. No. I stopped him. This is my fight. But inside, something snapped. The obedient, dependable Megan who smiled and swallowed every humiliation, she died in that conference room. The next morning, I walked into the office, heels clicking against the tile, head high, smile sharp as a blade. I greeted Chloe, listened to her squeaky enthusiasm, and calmly began training her, feeding her the very knowledge that had taken me years to master. But every word, every lesson, every email I typed, I was planning. Because I already knew. I wasn't staying. And when I left, Richard Carter's empire was going to feel it. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't hit you all at once. It seeps in. Like poison. At first it just burns, then it settles in your bones. By the time I sat across from Chloe that second morning, watching her juggle her color-coded planner, it wasn't pain anymore. It was calculation. Uncle Richard says you're the best, she chirped, her smile too white, too polished. I'm so excited to learn from you, Megan. Excited. Sure. Like a kid with training wheels trying to take over a Harley. I nodded politely, sliding a stack of client files toward her. Let's start with Morrison Freight. They represent a third of our revenue. Her eyes widened. A third? Wow, that's a lot of pressure. Pressure. She had no idea. Morrison was the type of client who could call at midnight about a missing pallet of engine parts, and I'd have to drop everything. For years, I'd been the one answering those calls. My marriage, my health, my sanity had all been around keeping Morrison happy. And now, Chloe was about to inherit them. Like giving a toddler the keys to an 18-wheeler. For the next 2 hours, I walked her through contacts, contracts, crisis protocols. She scribbled furiously, asking questions that made me want to scream. So if they're mad, should I apologize? Try starting with that, I muttered. And maybe don't promise things you can't deliver. By noon, my patience was tissue thin. I headed to the break room, heated up some soup, and leaned against the counter. That's when I heard Richard's voice booming through the wall of his office. Thin walls, terrible soundproofing. His words carried clear as day. The transition is going perfectly, he said. I froze. She's picking everything up fast. That was Chloe's voice. Nervous. Richard chuckled. Megan's dependable. But she's too predictable. We need someone with fresh ideas. Clients are too comfortable with her. Chloe will shake things up. I gripped the counter until my knuckles turned white. Predictable. Comfortable. That's what he thought 3 years of loyalty, late nights, and sacrifice were worth? She's good, though, Chloe said softly. The clients really like her. Some asked for her specifically. That's the problem, Richard shot back. Megan's become a crutch. They depend on her too much. We need to break that pattern. Megan will adapt. She always does. She doesn't have any other choice. No other choice. I stood there, soup forgotten, the words etching themselves into me like acid. 42 years old, apparently washed up, lucky to have a job at all. That was the moment something crystallized in me. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was dangerous. I walked back to my office, plastering on the professional smile. Chloe bounced in a few minutes later, asking another question about spreadsheets. I answered calmly, even kindly. But in my head, I was already building the blueprint for my escape and my revenge. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, Daniel across from me, his jaw still tight with fury. He called you predictable? Said you have no options? Megan, that's not just insulting, it's delusional. I know, I said, sipping my tea. But I'm going to use it. Use it how? I smiled. Not warm. Not sweet. Cold. Razor sharp. You'll see. The next morning, I wore my Navy power suit. The one I saved for big presentations. The one that always made me feel untouchable. I walked into Richard's office, envelope in hand. He barely looked up from his computer. What's this? He asked, tearing it open. My resignation letter. I'll never forget his face. The way his smug confidence curdled into panic. His cheeks flushed red. His eyes darted to mine, searching for some sign I was bluffing. You can't be serious, he barked, standing so fast his chair rolled back. We just promoted Chloe. She needs you. The Morrison account. You'll figure it out, I said evenly. After all, Chloe brings fresh perspective. The way his jaw clenched. Worth every sleepless night he'd ever caused me. He started pacing. This is about the promotion, isn't it? Fine. Maybe we can adjust your title. Senior Advisor. Director of Client Relations. More pay. Stop. The word cut through the room like a knife. I'd never spoken to him like that before. Calm. Absolute. Unshakable. This isn't about a title. It's about respect. And the fact that I finally realized you'll never give me any. He tried again, lowering his voice. Megan, your family. I laughed. A bitter, sharp laugh that made him flinch. No. I was a placeholder. A workhorse. Someone you could bleed dry until your niece was ready to step in. Family doesn't do that. Family doesn't tell clients you're predictable and out of options. His face went white. He knew I'd heard. I leaned down, close enough for him to see the steel in my eyes. You were right about one thing, though. I have been predictable, but not anymore. And with that, I walked out, my heels echoing down that marble hallway like gunshots. Each step a declaration, I was done being used. But Richard Carter had no idea. I wasn't just leaving. I was taking everything with me. The morning after I handed in my resignation, the office buzzed like a kicked hornet's nest. News spread faster than wildfire. People stopped talking when I walked by. Some looked shocked. Some whispered. And a few, like Margaret from accounting, gave me a tiny, secret smile. Richard tried damage control immediately. Team, nothing's changing. Chloe's stepping up, and Megan will ensure a smooth transition. Transition. What a joke. The truth was, Chloe was in way over her head, and everyone knew it. By 9:15, Morrison Freight was already on the phone. Their CEO, Mr. Morrison himself, wanted to know why I hadn't returned his call the night before. Chloe froze, eyes wide as if someone had just asked her to solve quantum physics on live television. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, enjoying the show. Richard hissed at her, "Handle it." Chloe picked up the phone, voice trembling. "Hi, Mr. Morrison. This is Chloe Blake, the new regional director. Megan's, currently advising me. What seems to be the issue?" What seemed to be the issue was a $1.8 million shipment stranded in the wrong warehouse. Morrison was furious. Chloe promised she'd look into it and get back to him by next week. Next week. I almost choked trying to stifle my laugh. One of our biggest clients had trucks sitting idle, contracts bleeding money by the hour, and Chloe thought it could wait a week? Richard snatched the phone out of her hand, stammering apologies. But the damage was done. Morrison's voice thundered through the receiver. "If Megan's not handling this, we're pulling our business." That line, it was like music to my ears. By lunchtime, Richard was sweating through his starched white shirt. Chloe kept fidgeting, asking me what to say, what to do. I fed her just enough advice to keep her from setting the place on fire, but never enough to make her look competent. The best part? I didn't have to sabotage anything. They were doing it to themselves. That night at home, Daniel poured me a glass of wine. "How was the circus today?" I grinned, a sharp grin I barely recognized in the mirror anymore. "They're unraveling. Morrison's threatening to walk, and Richard's pretending it's all fine, while Chloe stumbles like a toddler in heels." Daniel shook his head. "You should feel vindicated." "Oh, I do," I said. "But I'm not done yet." Because here's the thing, I wasn't leaving quietly. For years, Richard had painted me as predictable, replaceable, stuck. He thought I had no options. That was about to blow up in his face. 3 days later, I got the call that changed everything. "Megan, this is Rebecca Chin from Horizon Logistics. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." Rebecca was VP at a fast-growing competitor. Sharp, respected, ruthless in the best way. I nearly dropped my coffee. "Not at all," I said carefully. She continued, "Your name came up in a conversation with Daniel Morrison. He speaks very highly of your work. We're expanding and looking for a regional director. Would you be interested in discussing?" My pulse hammered. This wasn't just a job offer. It was Richard's worst nightmare. His biggest client recommending me to his biggest rival. "I'd be very interested," I replied smoothly, though inside I was screaming with triumph. That same afternoon, I sat across from Rebecca in a glass-walled office at Horizon's headquarters. She laid out the role. Higher salary, stock options, authority, and no family politics. As she spoke, I realized this wasn't just an escape. This was my chance to build something better and maybe, just maybe, take some of Richard's empire with me. By Friday, I had an official offer in hand. My start date was 2 weeks after my resignation ended. I thought nothing could top that high, until Monday morning, when Richard's empire really started to crack. I arrived at the office to find chaos. Phones ringing, people whispering. Richard's door slammed shut. Chloe sat at her desk, pale and glassy-eyed. "What happened?" I asked innocently. She blinked at me. "Morrison Freight, they pulled out. Effective immediately. 47 jobs. A third of the company's revenue. Gone." Richard stormed into the hall, his voice a snarl. "Find out how this happened. Call them back. Fix it." But Morrison wouldn't even take his calls anymore. And the kicker? I hadn't lifted a single finger. They'd done it all on their own. That afternoon, Richard cornered me in my office, his face beet red. "Did you know about this? Did you talk to Morrison?" I tilted my head, letting silence stretch before answering. "Richard, you told me I was predictable. Safe. Someone with no other options. Maybe you should have thought about who really held the relationships around here." His mouth opened, closed. He looked like he might choke. For the first time in 3 years, I felt free. Powerful. But I wasn't done. Not even close. My last 2 weeks at Carter Logistics were deliciously surreal. Richard paced the halls like a man watching his empire sink, while Chloe tried to mask her incompetence with Pinterest-level pep quotes stuck to her desk. Every day I walked in with a smile, trained her with icy politeness, and then went home to Daniel and whispered updates about the circus. But the real thrill came on my final day. Richard pulled me into his office, his tie askew, his voice rough. "Megan, you don't have to do this. We can work something out." "Work something out?" I raised an eyebrow. Like giving me the promotion 3 years ago? Or maybe not telling clients I'm predictable and trapped? He flinched. I leaned closer. "You were wrong, Richard. I wasn't trapped. You were." Then I walked out, my heels sharp against the marble, leaving him with nothing but his panic. 2 weeks later, I stepped into Horizon's headquarters for my first day as regional director. The building was sleek and buzzing with energy, so different from Carter's outdated cubicles and stale politics. My new team greeted me with genuine excitement, not forced politeness. Within days, I was in meetings with Horizon's CEO, strategizing on how to secure new contracts. That's when Rebecca dropped the bomb. "We've had 3 inquiries this week," she said, sliding a folder across the table. "All from companies currently tied to Carter Logistics. They asked for you by name." By name. I scanned the list. Not just small fish. Major accounts. Ones I had built from scratch. Ones that trusted me more than Richard. Rebecca leaned back in her chair, eyes sharp. "We want to go after them. But only if you're comfortable." I hesitated, not out of guilt, but calculation. If I moved too fast, it might look deliberate. Too slow, and the window would close. Finally, I smiled. "I'll handle it." Within a month, I'd secured 2 of the 3 contracts. Horizon celebrated with champagne. Richard? He was probably drinking whiskey straight from the bottle. But the real twist came at the industry networking gala. The kind of event where CEOs rubbed elbows and clients window shopped for better deals. I wasn't planning to attend, but Rebecca insisted. "It'll be good for visibility," she said. "Besides, Carter Logistics will be there." That last part sealed it. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and tuxedos. I wore an emerald green dress that turned heads the moment I walked in. Daniel squeezed my hand. "You're glowing," he whispered. Richard saw me almost immediately. His face drained of color. Chloe, hanging on his arm, looked like a deer about to sprint into traffic. "Megan," Richard forced a smile that didn't touch his eyes. "What a surprise." "Not really," I said sweetly. "I was invited." Before he could reply, a voice boomed across the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Anderson Group." Every head turned. The Andersons were another powerhouse client, worth millions. And guess who they were walking toward? Me. "Megan." Mr. Anderson shook my hand like we were old friends. "So glad we caught you. We've been thinking about moving our business. Horizon looks promising." The color drained from Richard's face. Chloe's fake smile cracked. But then, the twist. Halfway through our conversation, a woman stepped forward from the Anderson entourage. Blonde, polished, with a smugness that felt eerily familiar. "Chloe," she said. Chloe blinked. "Rebecca? What are you doing here?" The room tilted. My Rebecca. Horizon's Rebecca. And Chloe's older sister. The realization hit me like a freight train. No wonder Rebecca had been so keen on going after Carter clients. No wonder she'd wanted me at this gala. This wasn't just business for her. This was personal. I stood frozen as the sisters locked eyes, tension crackling between them. Chloe stammered, "I didn't know you. Why didn't you tell me?" Rebecca cut her off with a cold smile. "Because, little sister, I don't mix family with business. That's your problem, not mine." Richard's jaw clenched so hard I thought his teeth might shatter. The gala buzzed with whispers. The Carter Empire was crumbling in real time, and now the world knew it wasn't just about business. It was blood. Family against family. Later that night, as Daniel and I drove home, I stared out the window, mind racing. I'd walked into Horizon thinking this was my story of revenge. But Rebecca? She had her own vendetta, and I was now part of a war much bigger than I'd imagined. After the gala, the whispers never stopped. Within 48 hours, the industry was buzzing with one headline. Sisters at war. Horizon's Rebecca Chin versus Carter Logistics' Chloe Blake. I hadn't seen it coming, but Rebecca had orchestrated the whole thing. The revelation of their family ties wasn't an accident. It was a nuclear strike, and Richard Carter never saw it coming. Monday morning at Horizon, Rebecca waltzed into my office with her coffee, unfazed. "You did well with Anderson. They'll be signing with us next week." I blinked. "Rebecca, why didn't you tell me Chloe was your sister?" She smiled, sharp as glass. "Because you would have hesitated, and I needed you fearless." I stared at her. This wasn't just about business. Rebecca wasn't stealing Carter's clients. She was dismantling her family, and I was her weapon. That week, chaos spread through Carter Logistics like wildfire. Morrison was already gone. Anderson announced their departure publicly. A third client demanded early contract termination after Chloe missed another call. I heard all of it through the grapevine. My former co-workers texted me updates like dispatches from a sinking ship. Chloe had a meltdown in the bathroom. Richard screamed at the sales team for 20 minutes straight. Half the office is updating resumes. And the cherry on top? A leaked email thread where Chloe had accidentally CC'd half the company on her complaints about babysitting middle-aged clients who just want Megan. The moment that email hit LinkedIn, it was over. By Friday, Richard was calling me. Over and over. I let it go to voicemail until finally curiosity won. His voice was ragged, desperate. "Megan, please. I know you're at Horizon. I need your help. Chloe's drowning. The company is bleeding. If you just talk to Morrison, maybe." I ended the message before he finished. I didn't know him anything. Not after the humiliation. Not after being called predictable, trapped, disposable. But part of me savored it. Richard Carter, the man who once looked untouchable, now begging the woman he'd dismissed like trash. Daniel caught me smirking at my phone. What? He asked. Richard's begging, I said. Daniel raised his eyebrows. Going to give him the satisfaction? I shook my head slowly. Not yet. Let him sweat. That weekend, Horizon held a strategy retreat. Rebecca stood at the head of the table, flipping through slides of projected growth. Thanks to Megan's leadership, we've signed 3 of Carter's biggest accounts. By Q4, we'll likely surpass them in market share. Applause filled the room. But afterward, when the others filtered out, Rebecca lingered. You should know, Megan. Richard called me, too. I stiffened. What did he want? She smirked. He offered me a partnership. Said if I cut you loose, we could merge Carter with Horizon. He actually thought I'd betray my own VP just to save his pride. My jaw dropped. What did you say? Rebecca's eyes glittered. I told him he was predictable, just like he once called you. The words sent a chill down my spine. For a split second, I realized how ruthless she really was. This wasn't just about revenge for me anymore. This was blood sport for her. The next week, the implosion went public. Wall Street Journal ran a headline. Carter Logistics loses major clients amid leadership shakeup. Trade blogs tore Chloe apart for incompetence. Stockholders demanded answers. And then came the explosion I hadn't predicted. A whistleblower leaked Carter's internal financials. Emails. Memos. Evidence of Richard shifting funds between accounts to cover losses, hiding the true scale of client departures. It wasn't just incompetence anymore. It was fraud. The news spread like fire through the industry. Clients bolted. Partners canceled contracts. Within days, Carter Logistics wasn't just bleeding, it was on life support. I sat in my Horizon office, staring at the headline on my screen. My revenge had snowballed into something much bigger. I wanted Richard humiliated. I wanted Chloe exposed. But now, Richard might face federal investigations. Employees, good people, could lose their jobs. Daniel found me that night at the kitchen table, head in my hands. You okay? He asked softly. I lifted my gaze. I don't know anymore. This started as payback. But what if it destroys everyone tied to him? He slid a hand over mine. He made his choices. You didn't force him to lie. You didn't force Chloe to be incompetent. You walked away. That's all. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. Because Rebecca wasn't finished. And she was dragging me along for the ride, whether I liked it or not. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get messy, my phone buzzed. It was Chloe. One single text message. We need to talk. Alone. When Chloe's text came through, we need to talk. Alone. I stared at it for a full minute, heart thudding. Why me? Why now? Part of me wanted to delete it, block her, never look back. But curiosity won. Maybe this was the crack in their facade I'd been waiting for. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, far from the glittering galas and corporate boardrooms. She looked wrecked. Hair unbrushed. Makeup smudged. Hands trembling around her coffee cup. Megan, she whispered. I don't know what to do. I almost laughed. 3 months ago, you were crowing about being the new regional director. Now you're begging me for advice like a lost kid. She leaned in. Richard's under investigation. Clients are gone. The board wants my head. And Rebecca, she won't stop until she burns everything we have left. For a second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You should have thought about that before taking my promotion, I said, my voice cool. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't ask for it. He pushed it on me. I thought, if I didn't take it, he'd cut me out completely. You don't know what it's like in this family. I narrowed my eyes. No, Chloe. I know exactly what it's like in this family. Disposable. She dropped her gaze, shame flickering across her face. Then help me. Please. Rebecca wants me gone. Richard's finished. You're the only one who can stop her. That caught me off guard. Stop Rebecca? Did Chloe actually think I had that kind of power? But then it clicked. Rebecca wasn't just dismantling Carter Logistics. She was erasing Chloe. And I was the knife she sharpened to do it. I left Chloe sitting in that cafe, shattered, and drove home in silence. My mind churned. I'd wanted revenge, and I got it. But this wasn't revenge anymore. This was annihilation. The next night, Horizon hosted a celebration dinner. Rebecca stood at the head of the table, glowing like a queen at her coronation. Thanks to Megan, she declared, we've secured Carter's 3 largest accounts. Within months, they'll be irrelevant. The room erupted in applause. But I couldn't clap, because I knew what she meant by irrelevant. Richard bankrupt. Chloe discarded. Hundreds of employees unemployed. And Rebecca smiling on the ashes. Later, I found her alone in her office, sipping champagne. Enjoying the party? She asked. Rebecca, I said quietly. How far are you going to take this? As far as it goes, she replied, ice cold. Richard deserves to rot. Chloe deserves to drown. And Carter Logistics deserves to be buried. I swallowed hard. And the employees? The people who'll lose their jobs? She tilted her head. Collateral damage. Don't tell me you care now. That was the moment I realized something brutal. I'd become part of Rebecca's war, but I wasn't her ally. I was her weapon. And when the weapon's no longer useful, you drop it. The final blow came a week later. Breaking news. Carter Logistics files for bankruptcy amid fraud investigation. Richard Carter facing federal charges. The image on the screen made my chest tighten. Richard, once so smug, being led into a courthouse in handcuffs. And beside the article, a leaked board memo. Chloe Blake removed as regional director effective immediately. It was over. Carter Logistics was dead. That night, as I poured myself a glass of wine, my phone buzzed again. A voicemail. From Chloe. Her voice cracked through the speaker. Megan, they've destroyed me. Rebecca's destroyed me. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. Please. The message ended in a sob. I stood there, glass trembling in my hand. This wasn't how I pictured my victory. I'd wanted respect, justice, maybe even triumph. But instead, I was staring at ruins and realizing I wasn't just a survivor. I was part of the wreckage. Rebecca got everything she wanted. Richard lost everything. Chloe was broken. And me? I got what I asked for. But at what cost? That night, lying awake beside Daniel, I kept hearing Chloe's words. Help me. You're the only one who can stop her. And for the first time, I wondered, maybe she was right. Because Rebecca wasn't done. She'd move on to her next target, her next empire, her next victim. And if I didn't stop her now, who would? That's the end of today's story. Did things turn out the way you thought? Or were there some surprises along the way? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't joined the community yet, now's the perfect time. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always the first to catch new stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.